Plurashin, the young woman who'd rescued us, had worked in stellar cartography, helping to collate all the information coming in from the system's probes to the farthest reaches of space. She was an accomplished navigator. Arist Hellman, the young man, had worked in the system's reprocessing center, the nearest thing they had to a hospital. He was somewhere between a systems engineer and a doctor. Steen Malou Prinzel, a green-skinned female from the system's third planet, had flown a Libertine for the system. She had helped Trent to steal and repair it, and had taught him all she knew. Whenever she glanced at him, her eyes were wide, her movements furtive. I thought that was love. And then there was Trent. He stroked a hand across his bald, scarred head. He'd once been part of the system, plugged into it physically as part of the interface. There were thousands of slaves just like him, partly a fuel source, partly a translator. The system made free use of his brain, his senses and feelings. The more it understood the slaves, how they thought and reacted, the better it could control them. There'd been a slave riot on his landing, and he and 2 others had been torn out of the system. The other 2 had died screaming. Trent had been in pain, but he also felt a sudden thrill at being free, and the potential that came with his freedom. Being in the system had changed how he saw and thought. His pattern recognition, his speed at processing data, his tactical ability. "You're still part of the system." "No," said Trent. He just had the system's perspective. The ability to deduce a consequence from a given assumption. He knew Liberator's class and speed. He'd studied Blake's known strategies and operations, so he could predict Liberator's movements, see the rebellion we were building, how it would bring about the Federation's collapse. Avon seemed skeptical, but Trent explained that his predictions had brought him to Mogul just in the nick of time, and he'd been successful in stealing the data when Avon and I had failed.
Well, this is all very pleasant, but we should be getting back to Liberator. I assume you know how to find her.
Trent laughed. Yes, of course he would get us back to our ship. The data he'd taken from Mogul would be more than enough. That his crew had even got it, that he'd been able to direct the operation from up on his ship, showed us how brilliant he was. Plurashin collected the printout from the computer and handed it to Trent. The data from Mogul had been analysed, he said.
You found Liberator this quickly? All right, that is impressive.
Trent folded the page and put it in his pocket. No, he said. The data had identified something else, something he wanted to investigate first, before reuniting us with our friends.
Of course. I thought you wanted to help us bring down the Federation, but you want something in return.
Trent stroked his bald and damaged head. Perhaps, he said, we should test the value of the data. The computer and the analytical program Trent had written had identified a target that would be good proof, but his crew would need our help. On Liberator, there would have been an argument. Villa would try to wriggle out of anything that might be dangerous, but Trent's crew didn't say anything. They simply followed his lead.
Are you going to tell us what the target is? But if Cally and I give you our assistance, we also prove... what? That we trust you or take you seriously?
Trent told us that we would see. Avon looked my way. But what choice did we have? We both wanted to see that the data worked as we'd predicted. And if we didn't help these people, why should they take us back to our ship? I nodded at Avon, and he smiled. In fact, he seemed quite pleased. He'd never trusted Blake's moral arguments. He didn't like people with a cause. It was more honest for Trent to want something from us in return.